Pinellas County welcomes you to the kickoff open house for the Dunedin Causeway Bridges Project Development and Environment, or PD&E study. Pinellas County, in coordination with the Florida Department of Transportation and the Federal Highway Administration, is conducting this PD&E study to evaluate potential improvements to the bridges along the causeway. The study limits extend from west of Royal Stewart Arms Parkway on Honeymoon Island to the intersection of Gary Place, Gary Circle on Ward Island. The study will focus on potential improvements to the two existing bridges within the study limits. The main bascule, or movable, bridge spans the Gulf Intracoastal Waterway and connects Ward Island to Dunedin Causeway. The Tide Relief Bridge spans the relief channel and connects the causeway to Honeymoon Island. Improvements to the roadway or beach areas along the causeway will not be evaluated during this study. The purpose of this open house is to introduce you to the project and provide you an opportunity to express your opinions and concerns early in the PD&E study. Information will be presented about the study area, study process, and about issues that affect alternatives that will be considered. Project team members will also be available to take your comments and answer questions. Both bridges were constructed in 1963 and have been in service for more than 50 years. Both bridges have deteriorated and are in need of rehabilitation or replacement. In recent Florida Department of Transportation inspection reports, the main bridge received a sufficiency rating of 48.6, and the Tide Relief Bridge received a sufficiency rating of 58 on a scale of 1 to 100. This rating affects the structural condition and operational characteristics of the bridge. A rating of 100 indicates excellent condition. Bridges with a rating less than 80 may warrant rehabilitation or replacement. Both bridges are considered functionally obsolete, primarily because of their narrow width. There are no bike lanes and only minimal shoulders on both bridges. The narrow 3.5-foot wide sidewalk does not meet standards established by the Americans with Disabilities Act. The sidewalk linking the Pinellas Trail Spur does not meet current standards for width of multi-use trails. The bridge rails are also substandard. Corrosion of steel and concrete has resulted from exposure to the aggressive marine environment. The ability for the bridge structure to resist damage from storm waves during hurricanes or vessel collision is substandard. Both bridges are classified as scour critical, indicating that they are susceptible to instability due to erosion of bottom soils around bridge piles. Machinery and electrical equipment that operates the movable span on the main bridge has deteriorated due to age and wear. The existing main bridge provides about 20 feet of vertical clearance and 90 feet of horizontal clearance for boats traveling on the waterway. The U.S. Coast Guard guidelines at this location on the Intracoastal Waterway are a minimum of 21 feet of vertical clearance for a new movable bridge and a minimum of 65 feet of vertical clearance for a fixed bridge. The guideline for horizontal clearance between the fenders of any new bridge is 100 feet. The existing Tide Relief Bridge provides a minimum of 12 feet of vertical clearance and 45 feet of horizontal clearance between bridge piers. Since the relief channel is not a federally authorized channel, the U.S. Coast Guard has not established clearance guidelines for this bridge or location. However, the U.S. Coast Guard will require that a replacement bridge provide navigational clearances that equal or exceed those of the existing bridge. The goal of the PD&E study is to develop a preferred alternative that is supported by a consensus of stakeholders, meets transportation and community needs, and minimizes environment, social, and economic impacts. In addition, the conceptual design for the preferred alternative must be approved by the Federal Highway Administration, or FHWA. The FHWA requires that the PD&E study process complies with the National Environmental Policy Act of 1969, commonly referred to as NEPA, to qualify for possible federal funding. The FHWA NEPA project development process is an approach to balanced transportation decision-making that takes into account the potential impacts on the human and natural environment and the public's need for safe and efficient transportation. The PD&E process includes engineering studies, social and environmental studies, and community involvement. Steps in the process include development of alternative concepts, evaluation of alternatives, and selection of a preferred alternative. The preferred alternative will require approval by Pinellas County, FDOT, and FHWA. Development of alternatives will include consideration of comments you provide at tonight's meeting and all public comments. Other key factors considered when evaluating alternatives include the following: impacts to adjacent property, impacts and access to recreation areas and parks, impacts to cultural resources, air and noise impacts, impacts to wildlife and habitat and wetlands, need for safe pedestrian and bicycle facilities, need for safe and efficient transportation, visual impacts and aesthetics, construction impacts and costs. A wide range of stakeholders will be affected by improvements to the Dunedin Causeway bridges. In addition to local governments and local residents, the causeway is important to boaters, local visitors and tourists, and business owners. The bridge provides the only access to Honeymoon Island and to recreational areas along the causeway. It is also an important link for emergency services and hurricane evacuation. Opportunities for stakeholders to provide input during the PD&E study will include coordination meetings with Pinellas County and City of Dunedin staff and meetings with stakeholder groups. The City of Dunedin has established the Dunedin Causeway Bridges Ad Hoc Advisory Committee, which includes representatives of many local community organizations. You can provide comments by visiting the project website, pinellascounty.org/Dunedin Causeway. Viable alternatives will be presented to the public at the Alternatives Community Workshop, and the recommended alternative will be presented at a public hearing. Alternatives to be evaluated for both the main bascule bridge and tide relief bridge include the no-build alternative, rehabilitation, and replacement of the existing bridges. The no-build alternative includes only routine maintenance to keep the bridge open to traffic until safety issues would require it to be closed. Evaluation of future improvements would occur at a later date. Evaluation of this alternative is required by FHWA guidelines. Rehabilitation of the existing bridges, which includes repairs and possibly widening, will also be evaluated. Vertical alignment or bridge height alternatives to be considered for replacement of the main bridge include a low-level movable bridge with 21 feet of vertical clearance similar to the existing bridge, a mid-level movable bridge for which the vertical clearance will be determined during the study, and a high-level fixed bridge with 65 feet of vertical clearance. This slide shows the approximate touchdown for the low-level, mid-level, and high-level main bridge options on the roadway east of the channel approaching the bridge. The touchdown shown for the mid-level movable bridge assumes 35 feet of vertical clearance, just one option that can be considered for the mid-level alternative. These touchdown points are located where the proposed replacement bridge roadway returns to the existing grade of the approach roadway. This slide shows the approximate touchdown for the low-level, mid-level, and high-level main bridge options on the roadway west of the channel approaching the bridge. Horizontal alignments shifted to the north and south will be evaluated for replacement of the main bridge. In addition, an alignment which approximately follows the alignment of the existing bridge will also be evaluated. This alternative will include construction of a temporary movable bridge with one sidewalk to maintain vehicular and pedestrian traffic during construction. A replacement bridge with a vertical clearance slightly higher than the existing bridge will be evaluated for the tide relief bridge. Raising the bridge slightly will reduce potential for damage from high waves during hurricanes and reduce corrosion from the aggressive marine environment. Limited space between the causeway and Honeymoon Island will require that replacement alternatives for the tide relief bridge be constructed in phases to maintain traffic. Accordingly, alternative alignments that only partially shift the location of the tide relief bridge to the north and south will be considered. Key issues that will be considered when evaluating alternatives for replacement include maintaining access to recreational areas, avoiding relocation of major utilities, maintaining access and hurricane evacuation routes, improving the Pinellas Trail connection across the Causeway, and consideration of the natural beauty of the area. Impacts to wetlands and essential fish habitat will be evaluated for alternatives considered. Seagrass surveys will be conducted. Efforts to minimize seagrass and wetland impacts will be made. Mitigation may be required for unavoidable impacts. A number of protected species, including manatees, sea turtles, and wading birds, occur in the vicinity of the project. Wildlife surveys will be conducted, and project biologists will coordinate with resource agencies and with biologists at Honeymoon Island State Park. Efforts to minimize impacts to wildlife and habitat will be considered. A cultural resource assessment survey will be conducted. It is not anticipated that either bridge will be determined eligible for listing in the National Register of Historic Places by the State Historic Preservation Officer, or SHPO. Since the causeway was constructed in the 1950s from material dredged from the bay bottom, the potential for archaeological resources is low. Dunedin once served as a major historic Florida seaport. It is possible that sunken vessels are located within the vicinity of the bridge. SHPO may require a maritime archaeological survey for the area under the bridge. There are a number of noise-sensitive sites within the project limits, including residences and recreational areas. A noise study will be conducted. In addition, an air quality assessment will be conducted. Public parks, recreation areas, wildlife and waterfowl refuges, and historic sites are afforded special protection by the federal government under Section 4F of the 1966 U.S. Department of Transportation Act as amended. Impacts to these areas are approved only if there are no prudent or feasible alternatives. The Federal Highway Administration may require mitigation for unavoidable impacts. Opportunity for public input concerning these impacts is required. Areas that potentially could be afforded protection under Section 4F include the Pinellas Trail, the recreation areas along the Causeway, the City of Dunedin Rotary Park, and the Honeymoon Island State Park. This brief video presentation will be shown continuously until 7:15 p.m. tonight. Please visit the information station set up in the main activity room. Graphics and information about environmental and engineering issues that will affect development and evaluation of alternatives for improvements to the tide relief and main bridges are available. You can also visit the Bridge Aesthetics Station to provide input concerning the look of a replacement bridge if selected as the recommended alternative. Project team members will be available to answer your questions. You can provide comments by completing the questionnaire provided at the sign-in table, completing the Visual Preferences Survey located at the Bridge Aesthetics Station, completing the comment form that you received in the mail or at the sign-in table. The survey, questionnaire, or comment form can be left in the comment box provided at tonight's meeting, or you can give the completed forms to any project team member. If you prefer, you can complete the comment form after tonight's meeting and mail it to the address printed on the back of the form. Please mail the forms or email your comments to the county no later than April 21, 2015. At any time during the PD&E study, you can submit your comments by visiting the Contact Us page on the project website, www.pinellascounty.org/Dunedin Causeway. Or you can contact Nancy McKibben, the county's project manager. Her contact information is included in the handout you received today. The study is anticipated to be completed in 24 months. Opportunities for continuing community input will be available for the duration of the study. After tonight's meeting, your comments and questionnaires will be reviewed and development of alternatives will begin. You will be invited to comment on viable alternatives prior to selection of a recommended alternative at the Alternatives Community Meeting, tentatively planned for winter 2015. The recommended alternative will be presented at a public hearing in spring 2016 prior to submittal to FHWA for approval. Thank you for your interest and participation in this important project. We hope you find tonight's open house informative. We look forward to your comments.